Everyone, well, thank you again for joining us. We look forward to presenting this webinar and training to our partners, the school districts with the state of Iowa and Department of Homeland Security. I briefly want to just introduce myself. I'm Clifton Hebert with AG Witt. Our CEO and founding partner is Mr. James Lee Witt, who served as a cabinet member and FEMA director under President Clinton for his 8 years, prior to entering the disaster recovery business. I'm currently serving as the director of Disaster Recovery Division, and I'm also the project manager over the Iowa School Safety Grant Project. My team and I, we all look forward to helping and assisting the state of Iowa and the school districts in this very important initiative. And today we are joined by Mr. John Benson, Homeland Security Advisor and Emergency Management Director of the Iowa Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, and Mr. Dennis Harper, Recovery Division Administrator of the Iowa Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Director Benson for any opening comments.
Hey, Clifton, thanks. Great to see everybody on here. Big number, 185 folks. So that's fantastic. For those of you, obviously, if you're on here, you understand what we're attempting to do with this program. Governor set aside a fairly large amount of money to do vulnerability assessments on the schools and then provide the $50,000 grant per school. So our agency, just for awareness, is a rather small agency with regard to size. We have about 80 employees. So when we're talking about administering in excess of $80 million to 300 plus school districts and 1,500 plus school buildings, we need some help. So that's why you see Clifton and his team from AG Witt joining us to support this. We've done a lot of work with AG Witt in the past, really good partners, and they're doing a really exceptional job with this as well. So I'm very excited about this, that there have been as many people on here as we see today, the 180. You probably also noticed that Clifton is recording this. So what we do with these recordings is we stick them out on our YouTube page. So if at some point in the future, as you're working through this, you had a question regarding anything that you maybe saw or heard today, couldn't remember it, goes back and it's a nice ready reference. It's also kind of nice when you're working through the process to start and stop the video, listen to a particular section of the presentation, work on that section of the application while the video stopped, and just kind of keep chunking it off as you go through. So that's what we're here for. And Clifton's team is really here to help you as the applicants really get through the grant process as efficiently as possible. It is a federal grant. So of course, there's obviously a lot of little headaches that go with it, but they're doing a really good job of managing that. So you're not here to listen to me. You're here to listen to Clifton and his team talk through the grant. But I just want to say thank you for taking your time this morning. Clifton, I will get out of your way and let you have at it.
Thank you very much, Director Benson. We appreciate it. All right, so moving forward, just a brief overview of the agenda. We're going to take an overview of the school safety improvement funding, eligibility requirements, the application process and requirements, application template tutorial, and we're going to address a few of the federal compliance and reporting key guidance and resources, and then key contacts. One caveat to this, I will say that because we have such a large group, we do ask that if you have questions, please post them in the chat. As we move along, Ms. Bonnie will address the questions if she can during the webinar, and at the end of the webinar, we'll reserve some time for addressing those questions all at one time. That way we can move along through it. So again, if you have any questions, please just post them in the chat and we will get those addressed for you. Okay, so a quick overview of the school safety improvement funding. Iowa Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management is in conjunction with the Iowa Department of Education, offers grants to pre-K through 12 school districts to support school safety improvement. Each school district may apply for up to $50,000 per school building to make minor capital security improvements, aligned with each building's completed vulnerability assessment recommendations. Some of the program objectives, all right, would be perform security assessment in concert with local authorities and assist the schools in creating and improving school security plans. and then making an investment in these minor capital improvements for security enhancements from one or more of the 6 categories identified as eligible minor capital improvements. Those being 1, control entry, 2, electronic security and communication systems, 3 would be barriers, 4 would be perimeter security, 5, illumination, and 6, building envelope. And we'll run through some items under each of those categories as we move through the presentation. Okay, some examples of some minor capital improvements. They include here, but they are not all limited here, okay? There can be others that will apply. Locks, ID actuated systems, duress alarms, intrusion detection systems, radios, mass notification systems, cameras, video servers, fixed or movable barriers, fencing, security lighting, blast safety film, reinforced doors, door frames and windows, call buttons, and door prop sensors. All of these are sourced out through you would find in the funding opportunity announcement for the school safety improvement funding for pre-K through 12 that can be found on the Iowa Homeland Security website under grants. And also we would also refer you to the new school safety grant program eligible and ineligible expenses dated 12/21 of 2022. There's a document that we will be addressing as well following the next slide. This is a living document, and it identifies some of the key improvements. Okay, so secondly, next we'll move on to the fire safety requirements for the capital improvements. Again, some of the minor capital improvements and or other associated security enhancements or modifications to any school building must be reviewed and approved by the state fire marshal or the school district's local fire inspector in accordance with the Iowa Administrative Code 661-300 prior to installation of the proposed notification. For information on these requirements and or to submit the proposed modifications to the state fire marshal, please visit their website. These are hyperlinks. All of these that you'll see in the green or blue that are underlined are hyperlinks. They're working in the presentation, so that allows you a quick access to where you need to go for that information. And also please note that submitted proposed modifications, they could take up to 90 days or more for the state fire marshal to give approval to these. So if you're any of the associated improvements that you find in the listing that we're going to go over, please get those in sooner than later. And again, you can refer to the new school safety grant program. There's a state fire marshal submission guide dated 12/21 of 22 document, again from the state fire marshal, that is supplied. Both of these documents will be supplied with the application package should you request it. And they also will be posted on the Homeland Security's website as well under the grants tab. So next, I want to take a quick second and we're going to go over the actual I want to take a quick look into first. Let's take a quick look into an example of the eligible and ineligible improvements, okay, or expenses. Okay, this is a living working document that the Homeland Security Department is working with. It addresses all 6 of the categories: the entry control, the electronic security and communication system. And there's just a brief list of things here, that improvements that have been through the FAQs and through working through the initial process. We're finding that these are some of the things that are coming up. This first page will again list the eligible expenses, and then the next page will identify some of the ineligible expenses that may be in your vulnerability assessment that will just not be covered by this particular grant. So for instance, an eligible improvement for this would be a visitor management system, the UPS systems, the uninterrupted power supplies, external, internal doors, security vestibules. Those are all, under entry would be acceptable. electronic video surveillance systems, electronic signage, monitors, TVs, weather radios, gunshot detection systems. Again, these are all items that would be eligible. Barriers, vehicle barriers, large rocks, Jersey barriers of such, again, are going to be eligible. Perimeter security, which would include security related signage stating that it's camera surveillance, there's controlled entry, exterior numbering of door signage, chain link fencing, wrought iron fencing, anything of that sort, including anti-climb, privacy screening, or K-rated. Installation of gates, drop arms, swing gates, movable bollards, or roller or slider gates as well. Okay, and illumination, any type of interior, exterior lighting related to equipment such as dusk to dawn controllers, to include any emergency lighting. And then on the building envelope, it would include a safety glass or glass hardening measures. These must contain blast safety film, like a blast curtain or bulletproofing. Any exterior door upgrades, outside HVAC, backup power supply security, security mirrors in the hallways, windows, again, ballistically rated, or wire reinforced installation, or any additional window hardware that may be installed. Now, moving on down to the list of some of the things that are not eligible under this particular grant. Okay, so for instance, on the entry control, vehicle placards for parking, that sort of nature, those type of things. Barriers, trees or landscaping near a school or that are intended to be put there for a barrier, landscaping and trees are not acceptable. Perimeter security, okay, signage related to such as, no smoking, vaping, no firearms, no drugs, no type of that signage. It really needs to be dealing with, security type situations. And fencing, specifically related to sports complex, installing fences around football fields or baseball or softball fields, soccer fields, and that nature, or not. They must be around the immediate school that would limit or restrict some sort of access to some part of the school building. Illumination, again, when not related to an attendance center, such as sports complexes, football, baseball, softball fields, and that nature. And then on the building envelope, this is one here that's come up several times. Window covering that purely prevents or inhibits viewing, such as, just this common vinyl sticker with a logo or something on it, or even a vinyl tinting of the window. Any type of film you put on your window has to be, a security improvement. So again, we go to the bulletproofing, blast proofing, that sort of, it has to have a hardening structure to that, as mentioned above. And also any, floor markings. Okay, miscellaneous, some of the things come up, training that are not part of the approved security enhancement above. Examples are the ALICE training, the run, hide, fight training, alert training, or any future staff development training, even if it's related to active threats of security. Exercises such as hiring a contractor to assist with security development and execution, even if it's related to an active threat or security. Okay, so threat assessment, hiring over contractors, that again is something that's not going to be covered. Another one that's come up quite regularly is the GO kits, first aid kits, trauma kits, stop bleed kits, AEDs, that sort of nature. Those things are not particularly pertaining to this particular grant, so those would not be eligible under this grant. And any interior door numbering, again, these are things that would not be eligible. And ongoing subscriptions. So for instance, if you're installing security cameras and you get 1 year free subscription to, their platform or their app or whatever it may be, if it's in the initial package that you have 1 year free, any additional years or any additional subscriptions will be on the school district. It will not be covered under this grant. So that's all that could be covered at that particular, on this particular grant. Okay, so I'm going to jump in now to the fire marshal these two kind of tie together because, again, relating back to the slide where some of the minor improvements, they have to be reviewed and approved by the state fire marshal. Okay. Again, this is a working document. It needs to be updated. It will be updated as necessary and posted on the state's Homeland Security website, again, under the grants process, under the grants tab. This is not all inclusive. It uses the 6 categories for improvements that are eligible for reimbursement to protect insight to whether something should be submitted to the state fire marshal. If there are any questions, please contact the state fire marshal. And again, these are hyperlinks and these documents are available and these are working hyperlinks for you. And I'll go through just 1 or 2 of each. On entry control, if it's a visitor's management system, for instance, if it is just a computer check-in type system, that does not need to be reviewed by the state fire marshal. Okay, but if it incorporates a locking system, then that would need to be seen. Okay, and then it states here where you would send those submittals to, and this is the location and the email where you would send that stuff to. Okay, so metal detectors, again, do not need to be approved by the state fire marshal. Uninterrupted power supplies, the UPSs, do not. However, exterior doors, interior doors, these do need to have a full submittal done by an architect to the state fire marshal website. And you'll notice as I go through here, some of them require a full submittal, some of them are requiring a very limited review. So I'll point that out in just 1 second here. Electronic security and communication systems. The video surveillance systems, again, they do not need to be approved. Intrusion detective systems do not need to be. Now, the duress systems, the mass notification system, and alarm systems, most of these systems are tied to your fire alarm systems. So if any modifications or anything are done to that, then yes, the state fire marshal will need to see those, right? Those submittals, again, need to be usually done through your design professional and sent into the website listed here. Again, now moving on to the barrier, radios, things like this do not need to be sent in. Okay, vehicle barriers like the bollards, the large rocks and Jersey barriers, they do need to review these for exiting and the ADA compliance. These can just be a simple rough drawing email done by the school and sent to the email here that is addressed here. Same thing with any of your portal barriers, or if you're putting in guardrails, same thing. It's just a rough drawing of where you plan on placing them, and send those over to the email provided here. Perimeter security, again, kind of the same issues. They do not need to see signage and entry controls, external numberings of doors, and those sort of things. However, when you do get into the fencing and the anti-climbing or any type of privacy screening, they need to see those for exiting an ADA, and really just need rough drawings sent to the via this email. Okay, so on the illumination, any type of interior or exterior lighting and related equipment such as dusk to dawn and controllers, including emergency lighting, the state fire marshal does need to review these for exiting, but these need to have a full submittal done by an architect to their website. Building envelope, safety glass hardening. If you're installing blast safety film, blast curtains, bulletproofing, again, these are a full submittal by an architect to the state fire marshal's website for their review and approval. Same with exterior doors. If you're changing out exterior doors, installing locked doors and things of that nature, again, that needs to be sent in by an architect, and because that's kind of changing the whole structure of the building. Your outside HVAC backup, your external intake, protective measures and any type of security mirrors or hallways or stairways in your hallways or stairways. Again, that does not need to be approved. So again, both of these documents are on the Homeland Security's website, along with the frequently asked questions, the FAQs. Please refer to these quite often, especially when you're completing your application and figuring out what you want your improvements to be and what your expenses are going to lean towards being, so that we can identify these and get these sent over to the State Fire Marshal's office as soon as possible. So again, if you have any questions, just let us know. Our grant specialists are working now with many of the school districts, and we are available to assist you and help you work through that process. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about eligibility for the capital improvement funding, right? So to be eligible to apply for the school safety improvement funding, the current vulnerability assessment is required. Okay, upon completion of the vulnerability assessment, the school districts may apply for the school safety improvement grant. Okay, the school district must be listed on the 2021-2022 beds report, which is used to determine the maximum school safety grant award per school district. Proof of the appropriate coordination and necessary approval from the state fire marshal or the school district's local fire inspector prior to installation of some minor capital improvements as well. And or other associated security enhancements or modifications will be required to be eligible for reimbursement under this subaward. Okay, documentation providing proof of this compliance is required as part of the reimbursement request. So all of this can be worked on and being gathered, but prior to you being reimbursed, this all will have to be in hand and vetted and approved and reviewed. So briefly now on the vulnerability assessment requirements. Again, a copy of a valid vulnerability assessment and or other documentation must be submitted as part of the completed application and meet the following requirements. It must include defined vulnerabilities and options for consideration to migrate. To mitigate the vulnerabilities. Any vulnerability assessments completed prior to the application cannot be more than 3 years old. The vulnerability assessment must be completed by one of these three options, right? The assessment by the state of Iowa and or the state of Iowa's contracted third-party entity, which is Tetra Tech. The assessment by your local law enforcement or an assessment by vulnerability assessment service providers, noting that if any of those are performed outside of the Tetra Tech vulnerability assessment, a letter from your local law enforcement will be required to accompany your assessment. Contracting with vulnerability assessment service providers will not be a reimbursable expense. Only the Tetra Tech vulnerability assessments right now are being covered by the state. A vulnerability assessment completed utilizing a school self-assessment tool or vulnerability assessment service provider other than the state of Iowa or the state of Iowa's contracted third-party entity will require, as I stated, an official letter from your local law enforcement validating that the vulnerabilities and the options for consideration identified from the self-assessment. So just verifying that they've reviewed the vulnerabilities and the corrective measures you're wanting to take are approved by them. State provided support for completion of the vulnerability assessments to qualify for a vulnerability assessment provided by the state contractor, a school must be a pre-K through 12 accredited attendance center. Access to subject matter experts to complete the required school security vulnerability assessment. This program makes available school safety experts to review individual pre-K through 12 school buildings for vulnerabilities that could be exploited in an active assailant armed intruder scenario. How do we get support for completion of the school vulnerability assessments? Well, the school districts, public and private, can request a vulnerability assessment of their individual pre-K through 12 school building through completion of the School Safety Vulnerability Assessment Survey issued by the Iowa Department of Education in the Consolidated Accountability and Support Application, better known as the CASA system. Okay, so what is the maximum award determination in eligible buildings? Well, the maximum award that each school district or non-public school is eligible to receive. For purpose of this grant, the maximum amount of funding that a school district or a non-public school district is eligible to receive is based on total school building count multiplied by $50,000. So if your school facility, if your particular school has 3 buildings that have a vulnerability assessment performed on them, each building is entitled for $50,000 for a total of, for that school district to be $150,000 in grant funding. The budget for school safety improvement grants was based on a 2021-2022 building count as reported by each district system in the 2021-2022 beds report, which is the basic educational data survey. Are the school safety improvement grant funds restricted to school buildings included in the 2021 and 2022 building count? Well, the security improvements on any eligible school building as identified by the program's policy could be eligible for reimbursement up to the maximum possible award if the use of the funds addresses security issues identified in the school's vulnerability assessment. How's a school building defined? Per the definition of school buildings, the attendance centers found in Iowa's Administrative Code 281-14.3 and 281-17.2 respectively. Any public or non-public attendance center containing classrooms used for instructional purposes or preschool, elementary, middle, or secondary students. This does not include, again, this does not include, what's going on here? I'm sorry. This does not include community partner preschools. Okay, so the application process and requirements. School districts, public and private, must indicate and provide their notice of interest or the NOI in the school safety improvement grant funding opportunity through completion of the school safety improvement funding NOI survey in the Consolidated Accountability and Support Application system, better known as CASA. So every school that has gone in, every district that's gone into the CASA system and advised that they do have a notice of interest will receive their application packet accordingly. Once the school district, public and private, has indicated their notice of interest via the survey, then that is when the grant application and instructions will be provided via email. And these are provided to the school district's point of contact designated within their survey response. So we do have some that, some of the emails, they were questioning where did it go, who would have gotten it. So it is whoever is on your NOI survey. That is the email that the packets are going to. Okay, continue with the application process and requirements. Okay, another question came up was to verify that the current vulnerability assessment is completed for each school building for which funds are being sought. Okay, vulnerability assessments must include defined vulnerabilities, options for consideration to mitigate those vulnerabilities, and meet all other state vulnerability assessment requirements. Submit the completed Excel application and signed documents via upload to EM Grants portal. And we're going to go into a little bit of how you register for the EM Grants portal when we go through the application process here shortly. Okay, every school district must obtain what we call a unique entity identification number. If you do not already have one, the UEI numbers replaced the DUNS numbers in April of 2022. The UEI numbers can be requested through the sam.gov website. And these UEI numbers must be marked publicly viewable. So if you already have a UEI number, you can go into the system and ensure that your number is and your account is publicly viewable and not set to private. Our grant specialists, when we're doing our grant management risk assessment, we'll need to go to sam.gov and be able to view your status at that point and see that you are able to do business and not being disbarred or have any issues. We would advise that it is quite a large backup at this point with sam.gov verification process. Them putting this into effect in April of 2022 following the whole big COVID event has caused a major backlog. So if you're not sure, or if you do not have the UEI number, I would advise that you certainly try to get that process moving as soon as possible. After completion of the school safety vulnerability assessment survey via the CASA system, the school district point of contact listed in the survey will receive an email that contains the school safety grant application Excel file. Only school districts that respond yes to the school safety improvement grant program question has received or will receive the grant application. The grant application will not be posted anywhere out on the website or anywhere, because it's specifically only going to folks who provided interest in participating in the program. Submit an access request for the school safety improvements funding in EM grants. Again, instructions on how to register for access will be provided in the packet, sent via the email to the school district school district points of contact. Portal access is required for school districts to upload completed grant applications. All grant applications, all documentation associated with this grant will need to be uploaded into EM grants, policies, everything to deal with this grant. You will need to upload into the EM grants portal. So it's very vital that you, or if you are registered, update your passwords, get access to it, and ensure that whomever is going to be managing this grant also has access to the state of Iowa's EM grants portal. Okay, some key dates and timelines. September 1st, 2024, all notice of interest submissions will be due. These are kind of the last drop dead type dates here, folks. So if you have a notice of interest, that has to be in by September 1st of 2024. October 1st, 2024, school safety capital grant improvement grant applications, they're due no later than that date. Again, these have to be completed. They have to have had the fire marshal completely reviewed, the fire marshal's backup, all documentation included. And then you just have a short period of time then to get everything done and procured and set and ready to go by December 31st, which, having seen such a long delay in the fire marshal approvals and reviews and approvals, I would not suggest anyone wait that long to get this done, which I don't foresee that happening. So the period of performance begins at the time of the receipt of the approved sub-award document, okay, and that and ends on December 31st of 2024. All costs incurred prior to the approved sub-award and after December 31, 2024 are not eligible uses of these funds. So you can't spend funds, you can't do anything with this grant funding. You can't go out and do any improvements or anything prior to getting a grant approval submission letter from the state of Iowa's Homeland Security. Okay, all work must be completed, reimbursement submitted to and paid no later than December 31st of 2025 or 60 days after completion of work, whichever comes first. So if you go through the whole process, you've completed all of your work, all of those expenses need to be captured and submitted into EM grants no later than 60 days of the completion of your improvements. Okay, so now I'm gonna swap over for just a second to the grants. I'm gonna swap over real quick to the application, and I'm gonna run through now the application process. Again, this is the application you will receive. This is a macros enabled application. So it's very, very important that when you receive your application, that you enable the macros. And this will enable the tabs to talk to one another. You will be able to add a building if you have more than one building on your site and those sort of things. Now we'll caveat the fact that if you are utilizing Mac or any other type of systems, if you're having an issue with the macro enabled workbook, we have a workaround for that. You will just email us at the school safety grant email. That's also will be provided at the end of the webinar that it's not working for you, and tell us how many buildings you have on your site that have had vulnerability assessments, and we can furnish you a non-macro workbook. Again, we will work through that as that process goes, but this is the application you will receive. This is just the cover sheet. This is what it looks like. And then the instruction sheet, I'm going to enlarge just a bit for everybody. Okay, so the instruction sheet basically just walks us through the application again. How do you enable your macros? And again, I recommend everyone really go to the website, keep track of the frequently asked questions. These FAQs are updated pretty frequently, so stay in touch with the website and review those frequently asked questions if you have any about the application. The first part of this, again, walks you through how you would enable your macros. It also will discuss your EM grants registration and how to follow through and get registered. There's a summary tab. The summary tab is basically where you would just give a story about what you're going to be performing, right? What the building, number one, these are my brief descriptions of these are my vulnerabilities, and this is how I plan to mitigate them. The designated authorized representatives tab is just that. It states out exactly who your designated representatives are going to be and their information that will be submitted into the EM grants, and that who will be managing this grant for your school districts. The pre-award risk assessment tab, that is also included. Our grant specialists, the AG WIT grant specialists, will need to have this information to complete our grant risk assessment form that we're going to be completing. We will either complete that with you at some point. We'll have some contact with you if we have additional questions and walk through it. But you will need to complete all of these tabs within this application. During our risk review and application review, in order to expedite it, we just need to make sure that we do complete and fill out every tab on the workbook. And if you have questions, again, you will have your designated specialist who can help walk you through that. There is a tab for minority impact statements. There is a tab for the unique entity identifier. And then we also have the Transparency Act report, which is the FFATA, the FFATA reporting. And we'll go over each of these tabs in a little bit of detail. We have another tab for the assurances and certifications tab. We have an application payments from the state of Iowa tab, which is basically your W-9 form. Again, a copy of that would need to be submitted with your application. And then we're going to go through the building budgets, and this specifically is just what we're talking about here. Kind of what are you budgeting? This can change, we understand, but it's just an outlay of, okay, I have 50,000 for this building, and this is what I'm budgeting, and they need to be legitimate. You know, we can't just throw crazy numbers out here, folks. We need to have a legitimate budget for video surveillance camera system or entry guiding system, you know, something of this nature, whatever it may be. And then we have the definitions and of the uniform codes. This is a federal grant under the SLFRF funding, so every form and policy needs to be compliant with the 2 CFR 200, and we'll have links further down in the presentation as well to help you with that. There's a contract services. Again, I would advise everyone to please read carefully through this instruction page here. It really goes into detail of what we will need to complete this final review and what you will need to be submitting. Equipment means just that, tangible personal equipment. Supplies, again, supplies that would not fall under the equipment category. And then we go into the procurement thresholds, micro purchases versus simple purchases, and things of that nature. Then there's also some discussion into the telecommunication cost and video surveillance cost, right? Again, these are just the codes and standards that we have to look for in your policies. Examples of eligible improvements as well. Then there's a budget tab. The budget tab, you will not have to, there's no input required on this tab. If you're completing your building tab correctly and everything is filled out correctly, you will get a notification of okay, and it will populate the building summary tab. So there will be no actual data that will need to be entered under the budget summary tab. So, okay, so let's move through the tabs then. So the summary again, just as I said, you will fill out the applicant legal name. Again, this is the school district, right? This is the school district's name, their physical address, and then a brief description. This is what we're going to be doing. Building 1, building 2, building 3, whichever it may be. This is our vulnerabilities, and this is kind of how we want to mitigate it. Very brief descriptions of a scope of work, basically. Okay, the designated authorized representatives. Again, your authorized official is the person who will work in EM grants. They will have to be the ones to sign off on all the documents and approve all of the grant process and documents that will be provided. Then you'll have a primary contact, and then you will also need to include a CFO. The CFO will also need to be included in this. So again, this is just where you will put the CFO will put their information. We need 2 points of contact. We need, just for grant management purposes, there should always be two separate people monitoring and working through the grant process. So these will be your 2 main, and then that would be completed. Then it would have to be signed and dated. And again, these forms need to be signed and either hard signatures or digitally signed. They can't be just, you know, a typed in signature. Everything has to be, you know, digitally signed, or you can print the application out and hard sign everything, scan it back in and send it in, along with, you can send the PDF copy of it along with your Excel copy and submit into EM grants. And again, your risk assessments are listed just here. There will be check boxes here. I'm going to just briefly switch to this. I have just for everyone's knowledge, I'm working on a Mac and my macros do not work, but on the risk assessment, this is how it will look if your form is working properly, right? You'll see a yes, no. These questions are all yes, no questions that have to be answered. And as you're answering, it will help us determine what level of monitoring we will have to do during the grant process. So again, yes, no. There are policies, there are written policies and procedures that these questions will be answered to, and we will need the copies of these policies and procedures to be submitted along with this application. We have to be able to have some policies and procedures to review to ensure that you are in compliance with the federal guidelines that we have to go by. So again, pretty self-explanatory. Just run through, answer each as you do. If you have questions, school safety grant email is the best way to have those questions answered, or you can reach out to your grant specialist and they can, if they do not have the answer, we will get you the answer expeditiously. The minority impact statement is basically, again, you have to answer these questions, and at least one would be, answered yes. It either has an impact or it does not have an impact. Again, just read over, answer, fill in the blanks if you have a statement to put there. Again, sign it, have it signed electronically or hard signatures. And then the UEI, we kind of went over all of this as same thing. This just gives you where you can go to get it, what the process is that you need to go through to get it. And then there are some questions here dealing with the FAFATA requirements. And this is basically where the federal government wants to know certain things. If you're going to be utilizing federal funding, they want to know a yes or no answer to some of these questions here. And if again, the instructions are there. If you fall under the category and you answer yes, then you'll just have to fill in the blanks here. The certification regarding lobbying, these are the assurances and certifications page tab. Again, you should have policies in place regarding lobbying, fraud, these sort of things. And all this does, again, read through, be able to certify that you are in compliance with these guidelines. The debarment, suspension, and other responsibility matters. Again, you will have to read through this, answer the questions. That is actually done through the sam.gov. This is why we need to be able to view your sam.gov account so that we can ensure that the school district has not been disbarred or suspended or have any other responsibility matters in dealing with federal grant funding. And this also applies to any contractors that you may hire to do that work as well. It will be your responsibility as you read through here that you will ensure that you will not procure a contractor whom has been disbarred or suspended. So every contractor should have a UEI number where we could go in and ensure that they have not been disbarred. Tab 7 is just that. It's just the W-9 form. If you've done business with the state, you should have a W-9 form listed there. Okay, so the building tab, and again, I'm going to really switch quickly back to my other workbook. Just because my tabs work better here. Okay, so again, okay, you would select again, here it's a drop down. Okay, who performed your assessment? Was it performed by Tetra Tech, law enforcement, or another provider? And then we have a law enforcement letter validating that the vulnerabilities and options for consideration. Okay, that's a drop down box. Again, scope of work. This would be for building 1. Okay, building 1, these are my vulnerabilities. These are my mitigation efforts that we plan on taking. That's what would be put here. Then you need to fill out your milestones. We have to have milestones here. We have to see, these are just basic milestones. When do you plan on start? When are you going to, if you're going to procure, how long are you going to procure? When is work going to begin? When work begins, when work is completed for each of the mitigation tasks that you're doing, you would put those here. We have to have these milestones filled out during the application process. Okay, so moving down to the building budget, again, what you would do is each one of these, and there's one filled out for you for a reference in this example, but they do have drop downs, and these are the 6 categories we discussed earlier between the entry controls all the way down through the building envelope. And then this cost category, both of these must be completed and filled out in order for the form to work. Again, it lists here what C is if it's a contract services, E if it's equipment, greater than or equal to 5,000. O is other, or S for supplies. And then you'll just click to pick it. And then here's where you will put a brief description of what you did, the quantity of what you did, and the per unit cost. Once you fill these out, it will populate down in this area, and all of this will populate, and you will get the OK sign. If you did not select one of these two, then you will get here that a correction needs to be made. Again, our specialists are able to help you with this and help walk you through that process. And the final tab in the application is again, the budget summary. This is where once you complete your building one, it will populate everything that you've put here in each of your 6 categories, whether it's equipment, supplies, whichever other contract services will all be populated. And again, you will get a detail down here that says everything is okay, and means that there's no missing information. And then as you add a tab on here, again, the macro enabled workbook has a tab that you can add buildings. Again, if that book does not work for you, we can send you a workbook if you tell us how many buildings you have. If you have 1 through 5 buildings, let us know. We'll get you the proper workbook. And then it'll be filled out properly at that point. Okay, so that's the application process. I know it seems very daunting task. We've gone through a few. It really isn't as daunting as it may look. Just know that AG WIT staff, we are here to help you, and we will definitely be willing to process this with you. And we want to work with you on a very close communications. Okay, so let's briefly go into the federal compliance and reporting. All recipients and school districts of grant funds must comply with the full terms of the conditions of the grant and are responsible for understanding all relevant guidance and terms and conditions of the grant award. All recipients of grant awards must comply with provisions of the Code of Federal Standards, Federal Regulations, the CFR, which is just a unified guidance of federal awards, right? We're talking about 2 CFR Part 200. This is a hyperlink to get you there. So if you have any questions, you can just click on the hyperlink and it'll take you to the 2 CFR Part 200. Schools will be provided technical assistance to support their compliance with federal policies, again, and regulations. This is what AG WIT staff is here to help you do. So what is 2 CFR, right? 2 CFR, again, is just the unified administrative requirements, cost and principles, and the audit requirements for federal awards. Establishes government-wide requirement for federal grants and cooperative agreements. These are the 2 CFR contains 6 subparts and 12 appendices. I'm sorry. The subparts of 2 CFR are aligned with the award life cycle. Again, these are all the hyperlinks to the subparts and the appendices. Okay, federal compliance, federal procurement compliance. School districts must comply with the procurement standards set forth in 2 CFR 200.318 and 200.326, including but is not limited to complying with federal and state general procurement standards, including using documented procurement processes and procedures, which reflect all applicable laws, regulations, and standards. This is where we need to go in and make sure that your procurement policies are up to date with 2 CFR 200. Maintain oversight of your contractors and await contracts and awarding contracts only to responsible contractors possessing ability to perform under the terms and conditions of the proposed procurement successfully. Again, this includes the UEI compliant. This includes disbarment and other conditions that can be found under their UEI number in SAMS.gov. Maintaining written standards of conflict, covering conflicts of interest and organizational conflicts of interest. Again, if we need to see that you have a conflict of interest policy, if it's in your personnel policy, or you may have a conflict of interest fraud policy, or something that your school district has. Maintain records sufficient to detail the history of procurements associated with the federally funded subaward. Provide full and open competition per 2 CFR 200.319, complying with the standards of the 5 methods of procurement described in 2 CFR 200.320. So now what this does is this just kind of breaks down the limits of what a micro purchase is, what the limit is of a small purchase, sealed bids when they're required, competitive proposals, and non-competitive or sole sourcing proposal restrictions and exemptions. I would advise strongly stay completely away from sole sourcing. This really is very restrictive, particularly with the SLFRF funding. And we're finding that there's very little acceptance for sole sourcing. So under these circumstances. Now, there is a simplified procurement with corporate purchasing agreements. Okay, the state of Iowa cooperative allows governmental entities and political subdivisions, including schools, in the school to purchase from a master agreements created by the Department of Administrative Services, Central Procurement. Cooperative purchasing is a collaborative effort providing benefits and in pricing, product quality, and contract process efficiencies of public purchasing entities throughout Iowa. And this is the link here, the master agreement link that will take you to that particular procurement website where you can manage this. So when using this option, the school districts are required, however, to ensure proper federal contract provisions are included, and they must conduct the SAM.gov check for the contractor disbarment prior to entering into a contract. So again, it is the school district's responsibility to go to SAM.gov and research the contractor that is intending to be, employed for the contract, and take out a copy and print out a copy of their SAM.gov UEI page that shows that they're not disbarred or prohibited from doing business with the federal government. And now we will go into some key guidance and resources. Again, Governor's School Safety Initiative. There's these are all hyperlinks to where you can go to get information for the School Safety Improvement Program, the frequently asked questions. Click here to email request to the School Safety Improvement Grant Program application, to CFR 200 or to SAM.gov. Again, these are hyperlinks that you can utilize to take you to these websites. And finally, we have the key contacts. For any questions regarding the School Safety Improvement Grant or to obtain the application, please email schoolsafetygrant@iowa.gov. And again, a copy of this will be furnished on the state's website. And we monitor this email daily. And briefly, I will say, if you have questions on your vulnerability assessments, if you've had those completed and you have questions, you can send an email to the schoolsafetygrant@iowa.gov requesting an update for your vulnerability assessment. And the vulnerability assessment team also monitors this site and will address your concerns at that time. Okay, so I see we have quite a few questions in the chat. So we're going to move straight into the questions and answers. So I'm going to, let me open the chat real briefly here and see if I can get it to open. Okay, so the first says, yes, we will provide you a link. Miss Bonnie probably already has. If not, she will provide a link to this YouTube and any of the other links that she will be providing. I'm trying to scroll through these pretty.
Yes, that one. Yes.
Yeah, I'm
So
trying to.
so this
Yes,
is
ma'am.
Bonnie. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yes.
So I did. I put in the chat the our prior presentation and recording. So I gave you the links on those, and then once we are through with this session, I will be emailing the updated links to the contacts that were identified in the NOI survey from the school districts, and then and I have been making notes for those that have updated contact POCs. So I will be sending to the updated list. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, and then the next question is, when can I expect a vulnerability assessment report? My visit was in the last October. Again, if you have questions on your vulnerability assessment, please shoot a message over to the school safety grant email, and we'll have the vulnerability assessment team send you out a response.
Yeah, and we do have Chuck Connors here with us today. Chuck, did you want to say a few words now, or should we just get through the chat questions and then you can address anything else at the end?
Sure, I think now is a appropriate time, being that there are so many questions related to the vulnerability assessments here in the chat, and it's I'll just say challenging to try to track the questions, and then maybe a follow-on question I have, like what schools or what district is being asked about. So I'll just say in general. Initially, the vulnerability assessments were taking about 8 weeks to turn around. But then with the compressed timeline to have all of the physical vulnerability assessments done by December 31st, the focus was to get those done with Tetra Tech. And so now what we are feeling is the effects of all of those getting done, which was 20 or 30 of them a day for 2 months. But then Tetra Tech does, after they complete the actual reports, which actually does happen after the assessments are done in your school, they do 2 reviews internally, and then they send them to us for internal or review. And then we either make corrections, send them back for corrections, or approve them to be sent to you all. We're running about now almost 3 months, and I know someone chat said that it's been a little bit past that for you, and I honestly apologize for that. We're working through we are working through them as quickly as we can, but we do want to make sure to get you, 1, an accurate report, and 2, a report that is free of errors. A couple things that we have run across is that there are schools that actually have been sent, not schools, I'm sorry, superintendents at the districts. They do not go to the principals, just to the superintendents. The superintendents then will review and distribute at their discretion to others in their school system. But probably 5 to 10 now that we've run into where the email from Tetra Tech has went to the spam or the junk folder for whatever that reason is. It can be varied reasons, but one of them is that the Tetra Tech email comes from a general mailbox. It doesn't come from, you know, a Chuck Connors or a Bill Smith. So sometimes junk or spam filters don't like those general mailboxes. So you can look there if you haven't received them, but sometimes you don't even get to see those. It's filtered out before you even get to see those. So in those cases, if you're wondering, the best I'll say answer is to what Clifton and Bonnie had mentioned before, is email the school safety email. It's a lot easier for me to take time to look at that versus trying to look here in the chat and respond. I will try to respond to a few of those, but if you don't mind, if you can please send an email, if you haven't already, I don't know many have, sent them to the school safety email site or email address. Gosh, there was one other thing and I lost my train of thought. Yeah, if it comes back to me, I'll message everyone, but I will try to look at least as many as I can and get responses here in the chat. For those that don't get a response by the time the webinar ends, please email the school safety email, and I will promise you I will respond this afternoon or today.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
everyone.
Thank you. Okay, then we have a question of, if something is on the acceptable list from the fire marshals, do we still need to contact the fire marshal? Yes, per the fire marshal letter, if it states that they need to review it, be it limited or detailed review, that needs to go through. If it states on the letter that it's something that they do not need to review, then you don't need to contact the state fire marshal. So again, just refer to that document and follow the instructions under each of those particular ones. And if there are questions, something come up that's not on there, then certainly, you know, feel free to reach out to your contact and or to the email provided, and we can certainly get that addressed in more detail. Okay, let's see. Okay, our application was sent, it was corrupt. We were told we would receive a new file. Again, I will check on that. You should have received a new file if you told us how many buildings you had.
Clifton, yeah,
Yes, Ms.
I
Bonnie.
did respond to Janet, and I have her down for 5 buildings, so I will be
Okay,
sending that out after our session here.
okay. Let's see. Oh, I see where you're responding here. Okay. It's hard to tell. I apologize. Some of these that have been answered, and I don't see that till later on. So,
Let's see, I can probably help you too, Clifton.
yeah, if you can kind of help me.
Sure. So I had responded to Janet's for the application as a Mac user. If we have any other Mac users, you'll start the problem won't be like filling in the blanks. It'll be the pull down. The pull down lists are based on they're macro enabled. So if you are a Mac user, please email the school safety grant email address. And what I need to know is the number of buildings, and better give me the school district too. And so that I can get you an application package for Mac users, and what that is it will not have the macros, and then I just need to preload the building tabs for you based on the number of buildings you will have in your application. Okay.
Perfect.
And then Chad asked where the documents were located, and the documents were emailed, and then plus we will be giving you links to the YouTube presentation and then our website, and then in there you'll be able to pull down the documents from the links in our website. Let's see, Red Oak, that's related to vulnerability assessment, and I believe Chuck had addressed those. And then my response to Janet, let's see. Ed had a question about the assessment. Let's see. Jason Schaefer. Jason, I
Yes.
don't know if you're still on. Hello. Hello, Jason. Yes, Clifton, do you want to? So I did respond to Jason that because a grant specialist has been assigned to, he represents 2 school districts, and then the grant specialist will work through the application, and then once the application is complete, then we will I'll actually be sending out the award letter and the subrecipient agreement once the application process is complete, and because these are federal funds, there are some specific requirements that we have to meet.
Right.
That's
And
just federal compliancy. Yeah.
absolutely. Yes. And she's very close to having that done on those 2. So I am working with her on those 2 specifically. So yeah, Mr. Schaefer should be hearing from us here in the next just very few days. Okay, so let's see.
I think we're on to Travis. He needed
Yeah,
an
okay.
application for a Mac computer. I've got him down.
Okay.
He represents 2 districts, and so I've got that down. So Travis, I'll be sending that to you after this meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I emailed the safety email too, so I didn't know.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's
And then my
always
other,
good. Yes.
Yeah.
one other question I had is, I found the email while we were on that I got from Tetra, but the 30 days expired. Do I just email them back, or how do I get it again?
Yes, sir. If you can email them back and let them know, that would be great. I'm pretty sure that email is monitored, but that is a good question that I honestly don't know. I will ask them. But if you don't get a response, I'll just say by the end of the day or first thing in the morning, email our school safety one, and we'll make sure to get those resent to you.
I've done that too. So, okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Okay, let's see
Then we
the
have-
next one. I think I see Mike Kruger, I think is the next one. Oh, that's related to vulnerability assessments. Okay.
And then you have Dr. Pamela Ewell. That's related to the vulnerabilities assessment.
Yeah, that, and then Justin's is related to the vulnerability assessments. Okay, so yeah, then I replied. Yep, so Travis, and then my reply to Jason. Oh goodness, yeah, this is the chat's not an easy thing to
migrate through.
go through. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so Matt, I have you down as well for 3 buildings. So I'll send an application, non-macro application to you. G Benda, I believe I have addressed her questions, and I'll be talking to you too, Clifton. Yeah, to see where she's at. Okay, with that, let's see. Justin, I do not have Justin's down here. So D and H will need a Mac. Okay. Justin, how many buildings do you have?
Might have dropped.
Yeah, so here I am taking note of his email address, and I'll just email him and ask him how many buildings he has, and I can get that to him. Okay.
And I did see one question, I'm not sure if we addressed it, but there was one question, I'm looking for it. There was one question concerning about the number of buildings. Okay, so if your school district has 4 vulnerability assessments at the same school site, then it's just adding a building tab. But if you have 4 different school sites, all right, if you have elementary, middle, and high school, that's 3 separate applications, correct?
Yeah,
So-
that was my question, because that's the confusion that we have, because one person told us we're all like a district and have 5 building sites, separate addresses. So
Mhm.
is that 5 applications? This is where I thought we could add the building tab. Because if you look at the application on the bottom, you have the building tab going across. So I'm getting mixed messages on how many applications I need to complete.
One application with 5 buildings. So 5 building tabs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mhm.
Let's see. So the next one I show is from Chad, where the application materials already sent out, or are they still coming? I have Chad written down to resend the application package. So I will get that one out. Let's see. Sean. Okay, I also have Sean. West Lion is a Mac user. I have you down for 1 building, so I'll get that one out. Let's see. Here's Chuck's reply. Let's see. Trying to see where the next question is. Let's see. Fred, I have you down. Yes. Okay. Get a copy of the application. I have you down. Yep. I have that one down. Let's see. Let's see, Kate. Okay, Kate Stuckey has one for, it's related to the assessments. I think Chuck has addressed those. That. Oh, let's see. See another one for the assessment. Okay, Rich Powers. What if a new building opened this fall? Can it be included? And okay, so if it's a new building and the assessment would not be done on it, so it would not be eligible at this time. But do you, Chuck, do you want to just bring up for new buildings?
Sure, absolutely. From a vulnerability assessment perspective, if there was not a vulnerability assessment done, I'll just say previously or by Tetra Tech, I'll just call it that. That'll be the easiest answer. By Tetra Tech, but it is a new building, whether it just finished or is gonna finish here very soon. Tetra Tech is willing to do, and we're willing to pay for that vulnerability assessment on that building. Just go ahead and email us at that same email we've been talking about, and we will reach out to Tetra Tech to schedule it. Now, if you've already had the vulnerability or they did do a vulnerability assessment, unfortunately, those new buildings are not eligible for grant funding. The grant funding for was only those buildings that are on the 21-22 beds report, because that was the report that was available at the time of securing funding. Hopefully that answers one or maybe more questions.
Okay. Let's see, Sarah. Let's see. Who do we contact? We haven't received the application yet. Oh, let me mark you down, Sarah. And then I can check our records. Let's see which. Great Lakes. Okay, Iowa Great Lakes. I have you marked down. I'll check and get an application package out to you. Okay. And just to let everybody know, with over 500 school districts, the school districts identified who the point of contact was for communications. So that's who we've been working through. All communications, emails, invitations have gone to the POCs. And so if we'll just look through the list and make sure that we catch everybody that has been missed. Okay. Let's see. Site. Janet, I believe we had answered this next question about the one application with 5 building tabs.
Yes, thank you so
Okay,
much.
you're welcome.
We're good to go
It
then.
is okay. Good. I'm just reading some of these too. Let's see. Okay, so Fred, I've got Fred down for an application package. Let's see, Rich. It was a vulnerability assessment question. Chuck, I don't know if you are following too.
I'm trying to go back to the very first questions and just pick them off one by one. Just replying back, not verbally, but through direct message to those individuals to try to stop the amount of messages that come into.
Okay. So I'll go through, Chuck, if you're taking care of the vulnerability assessment
Yeah,
ones,
absolutely.
hopefully everybody doesn't mind if I just go to the grant related ones then. Let's see. Okay. Oh, Jana has another one. Okay. So do we list total expenses in the fields, knowing that a portion of this will be paid for by the district save account? So the budget in the application would be what the school safety grant would be covering. So if
Okay,
your
so-
project,
All right,
apologize,
so so basically I should just make sure that I list like our entryways or secure entryways, that qualifies, is obviously going to be a lot more than 50,000. So
right.
so we're just going to put up to 50,000 for that component in the, but I just want to make sure I record it correctly.
Yes, and in fact, if you would make a note of if you have additional expenses over the 50,000 per building, I would add just address that in the application, maybe in the narrative portion, just so that if we do have additional funding available, we can get you on the list for consideration, unless you have other funding that you've already secured.
No, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
I'm all done with
Nothing,
questions.
nothing's guaranteed, but we will. It would be good to know that
Right.
that your commitment outside of the school safety grant. So, okay.
Thank
Let's
you
see.
so much.
You're so welcome. Let's see, Kate. Okay, I think that one was related to the vulnerability assessment. Let's see. Odie, or hopefully I play so that here, I'm gonna make sure that I have you written down. I don't have this one written down yet. So let's see. I will get you the application email package to you. Okay. Or it might go through, I'll look for who the POC is too on that. Let's see. Gbenda, I think hopefully we addressed everything from Gbenda. Let's see. Tim Hood. Okay, the UEI question. Okay, yes. So for the UEI, Yeah, that, that was implemented. It became part of the federal requirements back in November 2020. And then there was a policy memorandum that they were enforcing it effective April of 2022. So what that is so it would be anybody doing either direct, have a federal award with the federal government. And so in our case, the subrecipients, we as a pass-through entity have a requirement that our subrecipients have a UEI. So the subrecipients or school districts will have to have a UEI through sam.gov, and Clifton, did a walkthrough of that process. And it's also the links are provided within the application itself. And then for your contractors. So it's not that they have to have a UEI. You have to check sam.gov for if they're debarred or suspended, because since these are federal funds, there is a federal requirement and it's federal regulation that contractors that are subrecipients have contracted with cannot be on the debarred or suspended list. And in sam.gov, the regulation says suspended and debarred, but sam.gov calls it exclusions. They cannot be on the exclusions list. So that's what you need to be checking. And if they have a UEI, then your search is a lot easier if you have the UEI. But it's not required from a contractor. The requirement is that you have to take a snapshot that you did a search and they're not on the exclusions list. So that's what
there's
where
an
the
area of the
requirement
website.
is.
Yeah, there's an area of the website where you can go to do that. So it's just it's on sam.gov, and it's kind of a weird website.
Yes, they do talk a different language on sam.gov versus what the specific language used in the federal regulation. So, and then let's see, Chuck's response to Kate. Let's see. I think Kate's, that one is related to vulnerability assessment. Let's see, Ken Casper is the assessment. Okay, let's see. Scott Bridges. Let's see, your application does not have an active. Yes, Scott. Let's see. Yeah. For Scott Bridges, what I would need to know, I'm guessing that you're a Mac user and maybe you've replied. I will check. I have it down that you need, that the drop downs aren't working on the application. So I've got that down. Oh, let's see, Lone Tree.
And I'll print this chat out as well. So just so everyone feels comfortable.
Okay.
I can print the chat out and then make sure and cross-reference it with any emails that were sent out, and we'll make sure that everybody gets addressed as far as the application goes.
Thank you. I guess, yeah. So we can do that one. And then the only thing that I need to know for the Mac users is just the number of buildings.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Let's see, Megan has had a question about assessments. So Chuck, I'll let you look at that one. Let's see, Delaney. Apologize for maybe not saying your name correctly. So you just had to upload reports. Oh, that is actually a question for Chuck. About the assessment. Okay. Okay, I've got another one. So Rich, we'll put you on the list for
Mhm.
a Mac, for a non-macro enabled application. Let's see, Chad, we'll need a new file. Okay, so Chad had 2 buildings, got you down. Let's see. Sorry. My mouse is stuck here. Okay, let's see. Oh goodness, we've got all sorts of yeah, if you're taking a snapshot, then
No,
Try
yeah,
to-
I could, yeah,
try to- I'm trying to
I'll-
keep up with, yeah.
yeah, I'll have to do
Consider.
that because we've got quite a few that are asking for the
Okay.
Mac version, so. And I do know that, any of our
Right,
specialists that have been
buildings,
working and they've been asking for,
yeah.
additional applications, we're asking that question up front and just sending out the non-macro version of however many buildings they need. So
And
we've been
Matt,
working through that process.
yeah, good, okay. So so Matt, we'll get you a non-macro application. Response from Chuck on the vulnerability assessments.
Mhm.
And then, let's see. And then I just gave you some information about UEI. So
Mhm.
you'll have that. Oh goodness, you probably got a lot of Mac users in this.
Yeah, apparently we just need to send out the.
Oh, yeah,
This will work.
yeah.
This is
just
very
looking
helpful. We
at-
know who's who here, so this is going to be helpful.
Yes. So John, get that out. Oh,
Again,
yes.
all the ones that are
okay.
putting their
Darren.
addresses for their Mac versions, we still need to know what buildings they have, right? I mean,
Yes, so that is one thing we will need is the number of
Yeah.
buildings. Yes, because those
And
will
it-
have to be preloaded because
Yeah.
it's a macro that adds the building tabs. So
and I will
just
say
need
too,
to-
Ms. Bonnie,
yeah.
a lot of these
Yeah.
are assigned specialists. So,
Oh, good. Okay.
I-
Awesome.
yeah, I know I'm seeing quite a few familiar ones here. So if they're already assigned a specialist, if they're signed into, if they're one of the 150 that we're working on now, they'll get these. But you and I are coordinated offline.
Yeah.
Means
Let's
I'm
see,
seeing so
Dr.
many
Pam.
of them.
So Dr. Pamela is, let's see, can you add that email address to the chat? Is it
The school safety grant.
the school safety? Oh, sure. Here, let me just do that fast. Grant.gov at iowa.gov. Okay. Oh, then it dropped it. Oh, goodness sakes. It brought me all the way down to the bottom.
Put you in a new
Oh, golly. Yes. Oh, goodness.
okay, so
You want to
That's
take over?
fine. That's fine. I can see it. Thank you. And then my other question was,
Yes.
we did the vulnerability assessment with local authorities. Does that just get uploaded with the application, or do I have to send that prior? And where do we send that?
that along with your certification letter should be uploaded into EM grants, right, Ms. Bonnie?
That's correct. Yes, with your
Yes,
application
That
package.
should with the application packet, and then we'll pull it and send it over to the vulnerability assessment team.
And what was the deadline on that vulnerability assessment to get that into the EM grant site?
So the vulnerability assessments would be, we would need the assessment to compare what's in your application. So when you're ready to upload the application, that would be the time to also upload the vulnerability assessment so that the grant specialist can then uh, look at your application and to make sure that the mitigating efforts that you addressed in your application are on the were part of the vulnerability assessment.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And some of the specialists are
Uh,
working with the districts. They're actually,
Yeah.
if they're telling us that they have a non-Tetra Tech vulnerability assessment and the backup letter for it, we're just accepting those and sending those straight through as well to help expedite it. But yeah, that's just with the application is the process.
version. Oh, let's see. Oh, goodness. Clifton, do you
Yeah,
know where
I am at,
I totally,
yeah,
it
I
kicked
am
me
at,
to the bottom and I'm trying to go as far up as I can to know where we left off.
there, yeah, it's hard
Okay,
to go back through it. I'm at the one where
Mac
she
version.
just asked
Okay,
about
Kim
adding, so,
Casper, Tara,
Scott Bridges
Michael.
to everyone, and then we
Has
have Tim
3, okay.
Wood.
Got
Please
that.
share the Mac
Okay.
version with Sydney.
Okay, that one. Here's one from Joyce. And I apologize if you have an older question. I believe I caught up. What triggers the
Yes.
application being sent to the district? So the Department of Education through the CASA system, they have there was an NOI survey, and in the NOI survey, they identified they would complete the NOI survey if the for school safety funding, and then the point of contact that was identified that triggered an email from Homeland Security, and which is pretty much me for the on the grant side, that who would have sent the application package to the POC. Some of the NOI surveys were completed so early that I would be more than happy to send another application package out that's more recent. I have no problem with that. If you could just maybe send the request through the school safety grant at iowa.gov, that will help me. Just a reminder for me to send to resend the application package to you. Okay, so hopefully we get those all
Mhm.
taken care of as well.
This
So
is Joyce from Central.
yes, Joyce.
I think you were talking about the question that I asked about what triggers the application, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I did put something in the chat, and I also sent an email requesting an application, so hopefully it'll get covered, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, thank you
Yes.
very much.
You're so welcome. Yes. Yeah. And then let's see, Dr. Pamela, let's see, Tetra Tech.
Mhm.
Okay, this one is on the assessments.
And there was one, the next is there a sample letter from law enforcement? I don't think we actually really have a sample letter. It's basically just a letter on his letterhead saying that they reviewed the vulnerability assessment and, agree with it.
Yeah. Chuck, do you have any guidance on that one?
Yeah, that's correct. That's a great answer by Clifton. No set format, just that the whoever the law enforcement agency that has reviewed the vulnerability assessment concurs with the recommendations in the vulnerability assessment, and that and have their signature. That's all it needs.
Thank you both. Yeah.
I mean, will the
So
slide
let's
deck be available? That's correct as well, right, on the website.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Okay. So we're signed up for same information. Okay, so Sean, yeah, if we're signed up for the 2 p.m. session, will the same information be shared? Yes, it is. It is a repeat session in case those who cannot attend at 10. We are also offering a 2 p.m. session. Okay. Let's see, Dave, is the slide deck available? Yes, sorry, I know you were just addressed that, Clifton.
I missed it.
See
Go ahead.
let's see, who did the application email come from? It would have actually come from the school safety grant email address. And I would be more than happy to send out another one. If you wouldn't mind just sending a note to the school safety grant at iowa.gov email address, that'll be my trigger to get you an application package. Okay.
Mhm.
Jason, thanks for wondering. Okay. Yeah, I know, Jason. Jason was one of our first ones, and we thank you for being so proactive, and apologies for that it's taking a long process, just trying to get through, because they are federal funds, so we just have a lot of
Yeah.
federal compliancy requirements to meet. So yeah, thank you, Jason, and we'll make sure that you're taken care of. Let's see, Jeff. Okay, so to clarify, we should get fire marshal approval on the items before completing the application, correct? So Jeff, actually, so for the fire marshal, it's going to be a requirement for the items that are approved in your application, that the items that need to be approved by the state fire marshal office, it's actually part of the reimbursement request process. So not to hold up the application and the award, so you can begin the bidding process and getting everything in place after after you receive the grant approval. So in the grant agreement, we will identify the items that are approved, because you would only want to seek the state fire marshal approval needed on the items that we're actually approving through the application. And then that's when you'd want to start that process with the state fire marshal office. Okay.
All right, thank you. That makes sense. Thanks.
You're so welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to get through the application process.
Yeah, so let's see, Robert, I need Mac version also. So Robert, if you could give us the number of buildings, if you haven't told, say the number of buildings, and then the school district would help too. Let's see, Julie, Mac version, perfect.
Mhm.
Put you down. Let's see, just need the number of buildings.
Yep.
Julie, on that. Let's see, Joyce, what is the email address for questions? Okay, got
Someone
that
put it
one.
there. So
School safety grant. And then, yeah, thank you, Brent.
Mhm.
We're moving right along. Almost done here, I believe. Let's see, Dan, let's see, please share. Okay, got it, 5 buildings.
Mhm.
Robert, DC is perfect. Okay. Adam, Charter Oak. Let's see, we'll also need it. Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you, Adam. Matt, got it. Thank you. Let's see, Wayne, for the risk assessment. Oh, let's see.
Oh, he wants to know if he can just provide the URL, or do all the policies need to be found and sent and uploaded?
Oh, okay. So yes, I know. So we've got a vulnerability assessment, and then we have a pre-award risk assessment.
I think he's talking about the risk assessment on the pre-award.
Yes, the pre-award risk assessment. Yes. So you can, so Clifton, do you want to answer that one?
Well, the URL may not work specifically. Let me just finish reading through it. Do we have to upload or send all the separate policies? That would be, sending the policies would probably be best, rather than us trying to find them through the URL, just to make sure, unless the URL worked. It's kind of a, either or. But if you could get the policies, that would probably be the cleanest way to, so we could upload the actual policies into EM grants. And then he's also wondering if Iowa School Board Association provides the policies, or that they can tell us what policy specifically address these risk questions. And that would be a question for them. They possibly could. If you know, if they're under their jurisdiction.
Yeah, I believe the Iowa School Board Association, and if my memory serves me correctly, that they actually, yeah, assisted some school districts with some of the policies.
Yeah, I think we'd seen some that had been
yeah.
updated. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I know, I believe it was the Iowa School Board Association had asked me for updated federal requirements, and
I
and
believe
and I
you're
did
correct.
provide that. Yeah, yeah. So on that,
But I could not show evidence that they've actually provided those policies. If they provided them to a particular school, we wouldn't know that they did, is what I'm saying. So each individual school should probably just check and make sure and get the policy and send it to us.
yes, thank you. Let's see. Darren, can you share the school safety email again?
It's gonna bring you back to the bottom again.
Yeah, so
We'll do
I
it
will
at the
do that
end.
at the, I know, yes. Yep, it's, yes, school safety grant at iowa.gov, but I will add it when we're
Yeah.
done. Otherwise, it's going to take me all the way down to the bottom again. I'm not sure why it does that, but yeah, okay. So please send Dallas, right? Okay,
Now
Matt.
he has
there's
7 buildings,
Okay,
so we'll need to add.
yep.
the-
So, yes, I'll get one
Okay.
set up for 7 buildings. Thank you, Scott. Let's see. John has 5 buildings. We got, okay, we'll get you covered. Let's see, Adam. Yeah, this is related to the report after the assessment. So check that. I'll let you look at that one. Check. Let's see, Jay Westwood needs application package. Sure, you bet. I will. Easier for me to resend it than to have you look for it, because some of them were sent in
Yeah.
September. So yeah, a lot easier just to resend. Not a problem. Let's see. Knock out. Okay. Scott, I have not received. Okay, Jay. Okay, we've got you written down for an application. Okay, Adam needs application form as well. Perfect. Okay, Adam, we got you covered. April, we have 3 buildings. Okay. How do we get the form that requests the grant? So April, we will
Send that out.
yep, get that sent out. Not a problem. Kevin, Sigourney has 2 buildings. Yes, we sure can do that, Kevin. Mike, LM needs an application. Okay, perfect, Mike. We got you down. Rich, perfect. Thank you. Matt, okay.
I
I think I should have just
application
should've
packages here.
Yeah. No, this is good. This is good. Making sure, yeah,
Yes.
you get
This
it
is
all.
This is answering a lot of my
Cherokee.
questions for a response, so this is perfect.
Yes, it'll be exciting to see some new registrations and EM grants to get you started. So Lewis Central hasn't received the assessment or application. Okay, Dave, that's for both of us. Check. There's assessment. Okay, we got that noted. What email would have sent the application? Okay, Robert, it would have come from school safety grant at iowa.gov. So that is the email address
Correct.
that it would have come from. Let's see, does the FAQ on the webpage include items?
Can I just state too that if possible, if you have an assigned specialist, or if you had requested previously through the safety grant email, you could have gotten an application from my company email, which would have been clifton.aber@witpartners. So check, if you're checking through your junk mail, if you see a clifton.aber at, and that's Clifton and it's .hebert at Wit Partners. That's again, that's my email, because I send all the applications out. Miss Bonnie and I are the two that send out the applications to kind of have some control over what's going out. So I did get a direct message about the 2 p.m. session today being the same, and yes, it is. If you've signed up for both, if you want to attend the 2 p.m., you're welcome to. But if you've got what you need out of this session, that's going to be the same session. So, okay, that's all I've got, Ms. Bonnie.
Thank you, Clifton. Let's see, I think we're on to Scott. Does the FAQ or web page include items that would be approved and not approved items that we can view? Yes. So Scott, the new FAQ, the state fire marshal guide document, and the eligible and ineligible list, those two are working lists. Those were emailed, and what I'm going to do is after the session, I'm going to email them again, and they will be posted on the website for you as well, to make sure that we get those in your hands by multiple venues then. Okay. Let's see, Delaney, please send application. Perfect. Okay, we can do that. Des Moines Public Schools, I believe we have received, but don't know where to contact us. So Amy, okay.
We'll have to check and see if they registered.
Yeah, yes. Let's see. The process of filling out everything. Yeah, so Clifton, yeah, so Clifton, yeah, we'll check on that, Amy, for the Des Moines Public Schools. Okay. I do encourage everyone to get registered in EM grants, because that is our first trigger for assigning for Clifton to assign a grant project specialist from his team to assist you through the rest of the process. Okay. Let's see, Tim, if we added a security entry system this fall, right after we had the assessment, would that be possible to submit? Unfortunately, Tim, no. Items that were already added are not eligible. It has to be items after you receive the award from the award letter and the agreement from us. So prior purchases are not eligible through this grant. Mike, I don't believe that has received. Okay. Yep. Mike, got you covered. Let's see. C. Collins for the UEI information. Many SBOs have completed the process for the district. Checked with your SBO. I think that looks like it was just a response and not a question.
Yeah.
Let's see. K, need Mac version. New Hampton, 3 buildings, perfect. Dan, West Dubuque had their assessments. So this one is Chuck for Chuck, Dan Butler. And for the application.
He has 8 schools in his district. Oh, yeah, he's looking for he's operating on Windows though, so I don't know, the Mac it may work for him.
Schools in our district. We can sure send you resend the application, not a problem.
Yes.
Packages on a website or Google folder that we could download. It would help speed the process for the menu. Oh, gotcha. I know what you're saying, Tim. We've got that noted. We will, the reason why we didn't post the application, and yes, it's a public document. It was, we were emailing it because it was restricted to the schools from the 2021-22 beds report. So that's why we just didn't want to get more applications and then have to turn around and deny those applications. That's why
Mhm.
we didn't post the application. So, but we will take that into consideration. Okay. Let's see, my PUC email is, okay, got that. So Travis, what if your school districts are not on the EM grants pull down tab? Okay, got it, thanks, okay. Okay, Jeff, please send the Mac version. Okay, got that, let's see.
Well, if he's asking, what if your
Jacqueline?
school districts are not on the EM grants pull down tab? Are we talking about in EM grants?
No, he's got then just, he has disregard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, second one. Okay, we're good.
It's okay. Let's see. Please send. Okay, so Jeff got you down for the Mac. Let's see. Next one, Baxter will need a Mac. Got it. Okay. Jeff, one building. Got it. Okay.
Next. No.
Please send the application packet to me. Okay. We have 2 buildings. Got it. Okay, got that. Okay. Ooh, let's see. I
We're gonna be
think,
busy.
are we? Let's see, please forward the application spreadsheet to Burlington schools,
Mhm.
please. Okay, that Baxter. Okay, reply. Thank you, Chuck. Yeah, if so a note from Chuck is that he thinks he's answered all the vulnerability assessment
Okay.
questions in the chat. So if you missed one, just
Yeah.
direct the message to him. Gary Benda needs regular version. Okay,
Stormwater
Gary,
West
got it.
Virginia.
Oh, apologize. I think I was assuming this was a she. I apologize, Gary. Can you please send the application to Casey? Yeah, hasn't seen. Oh, perfect. Will do. Casey. Let's see, Mike. Got it. Okay. Roderick College Community needs application. Oh, goodness, 11 schools. Okay. Will do on that one. I'm for Roderick. Forgot to add has 4. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Fred. Roderick. Okay. Got Roderick, got that one. Oh my goodness. I think we're down to Sean.
We're at
Thanks
the
for
end.
all the- Oh my goodness. Woo.
This has been
Woo.
very helpful, everyone. I really appreciate it. I know it's a long chat and it took a while to go through it, but it's very helpful that we know that this many folks need the application packages so we can get to work on sending out the required package. And actually, there will be 10 documents with that application. So everything you need there. Frequently asked questions, the eligible, ineligible document, the fire marshal document is all in that application packet. So should be able to get to work on this pretty quick. Yes.
And I thank you, Clifton, for a wonderful job on the presentation, and Chuck for joining us to answer the vulnerability assessment questions.
Yeah. Thank you very
Greatly
much.
appreciate all of your participation. Yes, great questions. And yeah, so we'll make sure that we get you all taken care of. And thank you for joining us.
One last thing for those few that are still on, I just posted the email address that Tetra Tech sends the vulnerability assessments from. There's been a handful that have had it go to their spam or junk folder because it's not a Chuck.Connors email, it's a general email. Maybe you can add that to your safe sender list to prevent that happening. Thanks, everyone.
Yes.
Thank
Yes,
you.
again.
That's all I have.
Yep.
Yeah. And Clifton, if you could just maybe stay on for a couple more
Yes.
seconds here.
Yes.
Yeah,
ma'am.
I'm just trying to get all this stuff out of the chat.
Yeah.
Just so that we have
Not a
We
problem.
have that, yeah.
Okay, so thanks, everyone. This will conclude our webinar, and we look forward to getting to work with you soon. Appreciate it, everybody.